In previous days, Sayadaw gave the talk based on Bhikkhu Suttanta. Among the four fields of objects, Kaya, Vedana, Citta and Dhamma, one should be mindful of the presently arising object, and one should note the object that is most prominent. Every time the object arises, one should note it with aim and effort. And Sayadaw explained how one should note the object. As the person becomes skillful in the practice, knowledge arises. In order to cultivate knowledge, one should be noting every action, every activity, every object with aim and effort, with sustained mindfulness. By noting the object with aim and effort, with sustained mindfulness, sampajanya, clear comprehension, knowing correctly by oneself completely, will arise. And also when thoughts and imaginations arise, one should be mindful of it. And when mental objects arise, one should be mindful. And by noting the object, sati, samadhi and panya, mindfulness, concentration and wisdom will be cultivated. In the Bhikkhu Suttanta, the monk who requested the Buddha to teach, he practiced alone, without companionship. And Paviveto, just as one is in seclusion, being away from companionship, one should also be away from the companionship of defilements, and one should have continuous mindfulness. One should not give priority to thoughts and imaginations. One should not miss or fail to note the object. So one should note respectfully, meticulously. There should be appamada, non-negligence, non-failure, non-heedlessness. One should make courageous effort in the practice so that one will attain the cessation, one will realize Nibbana. So one has to aim for Nibbana. By practicing, the monk in the Bhikkhu Suttanta cultivated Vipassana knowledge, insight knowledge stage by stage, and finally he realized all four stages of Magga Jnana, all four stages of path knowledge, and all four stages of Phala Jnana, fruition knowledge, and he became an Arahat. Yogis who are here will not meet up to the standard of the Bhikkhu in the Bhikkhu Suttanta, but they are walking on the path to eradicate the defilements. So as much one walks on the correct path of Satipatthana practice, one will be cultivating Sati, Samadhi and Panya. Mindfulness, concentration and wisdom will be cultivated to a certain extent. And by practicing, continuing the practice, even if one does not become an Arahat, but one should practice until at least the first path and fruition knowledge. Gaining at least the first path and fruition knowledge, one becomes a Sotapanna stream enterer. By becoming a Sotapanna stream enterer, by attaining path and fruition knowledge, one gains guarantee in life. And the yogis have practiced here for the 2-month special retreat. And if the yogi has not got to the stage of Sotapanna yet, but still one has to keep on practicing the path in order to attain Nibbana. And one should keep on walking on the correct path. One should continue to strive hard in the practice so that one will be cultivating Vipassana knowledge stage by stage. From Pavata, from the continuous arising of the Nama Rupa, one will attain Apavata, where the Nama Rupa come to cessation. By practicing Vipassana, one will be cutting the 3 rounds, Kilesavata, Kamavata, and Vipakavata. One will be cutting the round of defilements, the round of good and bad deeds, the round of resultants, moment by moment. By becoming a Sotapanna, by attaining the Sotapattimagga, the first path knowledge, one totally eradicates the defilements that lead to the lower existences. So the defilements relating to lower existences will no longer arise as the person has become a Sotapanna. Practicing Satipatthana meditation, the Vipassana will not give rise to new existences. A Sotapanna will not have the Sotapanna will not have the existences more than 7 existences. So as a Sotapanna, one will have rebirth into human life, Deva life, and there are only 7 lives to be continued as a Sotapanna. A Sotapanna is totally free from rebirth into lower existences, and a Sotapanna has cut the Vipakavata, the round of resultants that exceeds the 7 existences. So in this way, Sotapanna will no longer live more than 7 lives there, and also old age, disease, and death is also removed. By realizing the first path and fruition knowledge, realizing the Nibbana with the first path and fruition knowledge, the person will no longer have bad rebirth. And in this way, the person gains guarantee in life. Even though a Sotapanna will be reborn in 7 existences, but the person will not have bad rebirth. Having rebirth into human life, the person becomes good, noble person, and if the person is born as a deity, the person will be born as a high deity, as a Sotapanna. So one should aim to become a Sotapanna in this very life. So one needs to continue the practice until at least attaining the first path and fruition knowledge. When the yogi has attained Udayataya Jnana, knowledge into fast arising and passing away, if he or she continues to practice diligently, then it is sure that he or she can attain the first path and fruition knowledge in this very life. By practicing Satipatthana meditation, one will cultivate insight knowledge, and insight knowledge will become mature. When the knowledge becomes mature, one realizes apavata, the total cessation, where all the nama rupa comes to cease, and it is nibbana. One realizes the nibbana by attaining Sotapatti Magga, the first path knowledge. Having attained the first path knowledge, one will never be reborn in lower existences. And by practicing further, one can totally extinguish the defilements, and there will no longer be rebirth. There will no longer be existences. But most of the people think highly of sensual objects. They think that seeing is good, seeing, hearing is good, tasting, touching, knowing is good. And they believe that if one attains Nibbana, all the good things will be gone. So they think that if one realizes Nibbana, there will be no seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. So all the pleasure, all the good things will be gone as the person realizes Nibbana. So because there is no feeling, there is no happiness, so the person does not think highly of Nibbana, thinking that every good thing will no longer be there in Nibbana. There are two kinds of happiness. The first one is Avedayita Sukha, and the second is Avedayita Sukha. In other words, it is also called Santisukha. Avedayita Sukha is the kind of happiness that arises connected with seeing good visible objects, hearing good sound, smelling good fragrance, tasting good flavor, touching, and so on. So the kind of happiness one gains by coming into contact with seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching is called Avedayita Sukha. So seeing good things, there will be good feeling, there will be happiness connected with the seeing, and such are called Avedayita Sukha. Avedayita Sukha is the kind of happiness that doesn't have to do anything with the seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. It is the kind of happiness that is totally peaceful. And one might ask, does it really exist? Or is it just imaginary? Here Sayadaw will explain with an example how the happiness of Nibbana exists. The worldly beings have to work for oneself as well as the family in order to have high standard of life. Among the 24 hours, one spends many of the hours to make a living. In order to gain Avedayita Sukha, in order to gain the happiness that is connected with the sensual objects, one has to invest dukkha, suffering, in order to get them. In order to get this Avedayita Sukha, the happiness connected with the sensual objects, one has to go through suffering. And when one seeks this pleasure, when things do not happen according to one's wishes, there is suffering. In order to gain the Avedayita Sukha that lasts only a moment, one has to go through the hardship physically, mentally, and also one has to do things, unlawful things in order to get what they want. When the person does unlawful things, rather than getting happiness, the person ends up suffering. The kind of Avedayita Sukha does not last long. They only last a moment. And one cannot keep on seeking the sensual happiness for 24 hours. When one takes pleasure in hearing sweet sound, good fragrance, the touch between inanimate things or the touch with the opposite sex, however pleasurable they may be, but after some time they get bored, so they need to find new objects. They need to find new and new objects, but after some time it becomes old, one becomes fed up, bored with it. After having pleasure, after some time, one gets exhausted and one wants to take a rest. Only by taking rest, the person will become fresh again. So, when the person gets exhausted, when the person needs rest, however good the seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching are, but the person is no longer interested in the seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, as the person wants to go to sleep, being exhausted. The person no longer is attracted by these sensual objects, as the person badly needs sleep. So in the worldly pleasure, the kind of happiness that is connected with seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, they are not better than the peacefulness. During the sleep, there is no feeling that is obvious during sleep. There is peacefulness, but one cannot describe the kind of feeling during the sleep, but still the person likes to sleep. So the person likes the pleasure of being fast asleep. And when a person is fast asleep, when somebody wakes him or her up, the person will get mad at the person who wakes him or her. So the person will not wake up smilingly. Even if there are good things to see, good sounds to hear, but the person still gets mad. How come you disturb my sleep? In this way, the person prefers the sleep. The person likes the sound sleep, even though there is no obvious feeling in the sleep. So during the sleep, there is no obvious feeling, but still the person likes good sleep, sound sleep, as it is peaceful. The person is not willing to give up the sleep because it is good. And sometimes the person even say, it was a very good sleep. I took a very good nap. So during the sleep, there is no obvious feeling, but still the person likes it. So it is the kind of peacefulness that the person cannot describe, and it is the kind of peacefulness that the person cannot deny. So the feeling during the sleep cannot be described and cannot be denied. So this peacefulness in the sleep is nothing compared to the peacefulness in Nibbana. Nibbana has guarantee, and Nibbana excels many times than the worldly pleasure or the worldly happiness. In the example, while the person is fast asleep, there is no obvious seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. So there is no obvious feeling during sleep. And when the person is fast asleep, the person cannot feel the touch with the luxurious, comfortable bed as the person is fast asleep. So there is no obvious feeling in the sleep, but still the person likes the sleep. To explain it in a Abhidhamma way, there is the feeling involved, but it is not obvious. People like the feeling that is not obvious as they like the sleep. Nibbana excels many times than the sleep. Even if Nibbana was 10 times greater, it will still be very good. But actually, Nibbana excels many times than the sleep. The Arahats make their time worthwhile by going into the absorption of fruition consciousness. And as they come out of this fruition absorption, they praise that it is very peaceful. Susukha vata nibbana samma sambuddha desita asokam virajang khema yatha dukkha nirojana. Meaning that Nibbana is very good, very pleasurable. People's lives are full of suffering. They are suffering connected with family. One suffers connected with life. But Nibbana is totally free from all the suffering. Susukhamvata, Nibbana is very pleasurable. And who taught about Nibbana? Who found Nibbana? Samma Sambuddha Desita, meaning as the Buddha practiced himself, Buddha knew everything that should be known. Buddha realized Nibbana, and Buddha led the beings to practice in order to gain Nibbana. So Nibbana is not imaginary. Nibbana is experienced by the Buddha as well as the noble beings. Susukha as the Nibbana is very pleasurable. Asoka means free from sorrow. There is no sorrow at all. And Viraja, meaning Nibbana, is totally free from the dust of defilements. People are polluted people do not have moral conduct, so that people are dirty with the dust of raga, lust, dosa, anger, moha, delusion, mana, conceit, and issa and matsuriya, envy, stinginess. In this way, people are polluted with the dust of defilements. The dust on the dirt road will not be as much, but there are more dirt of defilements. The defilement dirt are arising every single second. So in this way, people have the raga, dosa, moha dirt. People have lust, anger, delusion, dust, and dirt in themselves. Viraja means Nibbana is totally free from the dirt. Khema means there is no harm or danger. In the world there are lots of harm and danger, but in Nibbana it is khema, which is totally free from harm and danger. So the Arahats, they go into the attainment of fruition consciousness, and after they wake up from the fruition attainment, they praise how peaceful it is. One may not have realized Nibbana, but through the practice of Satipatthana, when one reaches the destination, one will realize Achanda Sandhi, the total peacefulness, by realizing the Nibbana. So it is sure that one will reach the destination, realizing Nibbana at the end of the road. Avedayita Sukha is called Santisukha in another word, meaning the happiness of peacefulness. Kilesa Taratana Abhavo, as it is totally free from raga, dosa, moha, it is free from the burning of the defilements. There are burnings of defilements all the time, but in Nibbana it is totally free from the burning of the defilements. And it is Avedayita Sukha. It is the kind of happiness that does not involve any kind of feeling. At the time of sleep, there is no obvious feeling, but when the person is awake, there are obvious feelings. But still, the person likes the feeling during sleep, even though the feeling is not obvious in sleep. There are three kinds of sandhi: Samudhi sandhi, Dadanga sandhi, and Achanda sandhi. The person believes in the Brahma. The people who believe in Brahma think that the Jiva Atta is created by the Brahma, and they believe that it is the Brahma Atta that is creating, and they believe that the Brahma Atta does not have old age, disease, or death, and they believe that there is the peacefulness in the Mahabrahma. So it is just how they claim that Mahabrahma is peaceful, but it is not meaningful. But it is just imaginary. But they regard that the Mahabrahma is peaceful. So such kind of peacefulness regarded by people, which has no significance, which is just imaginary, is called Sammudi Sandhi. If the person believes in the Creator, the Creator seems to have said that by believing in Him, the person will be saved in the heaven. So it's how they believe. So the person who has reasoning power will know whether it exists or not. Sayadaw explains the word Tadanga Sandhi. Tadanga is made of Ta and Anga. Ta means that virtuous factor. Anga is the unvirtuous factor. And Sandhi means peacefulness or calming, suppressing. So Tadanga Sandhi means calming, suppressing the unvirtuous factor by cultivating the virtuous factor. Practicing Satipatthana meditation, one cultivates Sila, Samadhi and Panya. Morality, concentration and wisdom is fulfilled. By fulfilling the Sila, one makes a vow to refrain from transgression. And as much one refrains from transgression, the transgressive defilements are overcome. So by fulfilling Sila for one moment, for that moment, the transgressive defilements are overcome. So here, Ta means the virtue of Sila factor. Anga means unvirtuous factor of transgression. So through the practice of Sila, one overcomes the unvirtuous factor, which is the transgressive defilements. So in this way, through the virtuous factors of Sila, one removes the unvirtuous factor of transgressive defilements, calming, suppressing them. Refraining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, one suppresses the transgressive defilements through the practice of Sila. So if one is mindful of every arising object without missing, without failing, there will be sustained mindfulness. The mind is calm, collected every single second, and one gains the virtue of Samadhi, concentration. And there will be the Tadanga Sandhi, momentary peacefulness. And one discerns the Nama Rupa, cause and effect, impermanent suffering and non-self. So in this way, by cultivating the knowledge factor, one removes the delusion factor, and thus the delusion has been calm and suppressed, and there will be the Tadanga Sandhi. When cultivating Vipassana jnana, insight knowledge, one replaces delusion by cultivating knowledge, and it is the Tadanga Sandhi. Sayadaw gives the example that is obvious. If there is a bottle that has a very small neck, if you want to take out the air from this bottle, there are 3 ways to do it. The first way is to pour water to get the air out of the bottle. The second way is to heat the bottle. And the third way is to suck the air out of the bottle. In the first example, by dropping the water drop by drop from the bottleneck, and when the water drop go in, the air will be replaced by the water drop. Due to the pressure of the water drop, the air will go out of the bottle. So by pouring many drops of water, then the air will get replaced by water. And as much one puts in water, the more the air will go out. In life, gross, medium, and refined form of defilements are arising, just like the bottle filled with air. They are transgressive defilements, and by refraining from transgression, one is replacing transgression by non-transgression. Just as pouring water replaces the air, in the same way, non-transgression by refraining will replace the transgressions. And as much there is viriya, sati and samadhi, effort, mindfulness and concentration, the priyuttana kilesa, obsessive defilements, have no chance to arise the moment one cultivates viriya, sati and samadhi. And when the mind is direct face to face with the object, one discerns, and thus delusion does not have chance to arise. If there is one moment of knowing, there will be one moment replacing the delusion. And as one cultivates sila, samadhi, panya, morality, concentration and wisdom, one removes gross, medium and refined form of defilements. So the defilements are calm and suppressed moment by moment, and there will be the Danga Sandhi, calming, suppressing the defilements moment by moment. When the Danga Sandhi becomes complete, one attains Achanda Sandhi. One attains the total peace that is beyond the arising and passing away. So the total cessation is beyond the arising and passing away. There is a total cessation. By attaining Magga knowledge, by attaining path knowledge, one removes defilements to the point of no return. And Nibbana is called Achanda Sandhi. In other words, it is called Avedayita Sukha. Practicing Satipatthana meditation, one discerns the Nama Rupa, and one cultivates knowledge stage by stage. There will be the Danga Sandhi, momentary peacefulness by attaining knowledge moment by moment. The defilements are calm and suppressed moment by moment by cultivating knowledge, and there will be the Danga Sandhi. When one attains the Danga Sandhi fully, completely, one will have the Achanda Sandhi, the total peacefulness, where one eradicates the defilements to the point of no return by gaining Magga Samadhi and Phala Samadhi. In order to gain Magga Samadhi and Phala Samadhi, one needs to fulfill Vipassana Samadhi. So Achanda Sandhi is what the Buddha taught. The person who wants to realize Achanda Sandhi needs to practice walking on the path of Satipatthana practice. The person who walks on the path of Satipatthana practice is sure to attain Achanda Sandhi the Nibbana. So it is not just theory, but it is the explanation based on the experience of yogis, and it is what the Buddha had taught. So the Acchanda Sandhi, the Nibbana that Buddha had taught, one should have faith and confidence and keep on walking on the path of Satipatthana practice, practicing systematically so that one will reach the destination. So while having this rare opportunity to meet with the teachings of the Buddha, may you be able to walk on the Satipatthana path, and one will be removing the defilements moment by moment, and one will attain the Magga Samadhi, Phala Samadhi. So may you all be able to walk on the Satipatthana practice till you reach Nibbana, cultivating Magga Samadhi, Phala Samadhi, realizing the Santisukha. So Sayadaw strongly encourages the yogis to keep on walking the Satipatthana path until they realize Santisukha. And this will be all for today.